Step 6 of Kotter and Cohen's method of change is create short-term wins. In this step, empowered people need to generate short-term wins. These victories nourish a belief in the vision, emotionally reward the hard workers, keep the critics at bay, and breed momentum. Kotter and Cohen report that short-term wins serve 4 purposes. First, wins provide feedback to the guiding team and leaders about the validity of the vision and strategies. Second, wins can provide an emotional uplift to those who are working hard to accomplish the vision. Additionally, wins attract those who are not actively helping. Lastly, wins take away power from the cynics. Focus is important. Some change efforts require several projects to be completed. When people have a sense of urgency and are empowered to take action, they can easily charge in the wrong direction. Focus is essential in directing the unit towards achieving short-term wins. Then choose what project or action to target first. The target must meet the following criteria: being visible, meaningful, unambiguous, and progress quickly. Here are my 2 cents. Recall when I recommended establishing milestones or goals that are in concert with the strategy during step 3 when creating the vision. These objectives are the first targets to hit in achieving the vision. Also, be creative in celebrating these small victories. There is power in visible celebrations relative to creating change. Okay, back to Kotter and Cohen. They have a few suggestions which will enable you to accomplish this task. First, early wins that come fast. Second, wins that are as visible as possible to as many people as possible. Additionally, wins that penetrate emotional defenses by being unambiguous. Wins that are meaningful to others. The more deeply meaningful, the better. Furthermore, early wins that speak to powerful players who support you need and do not yet have. Wins that can be achieved cheaply and easily, even if they seem small compared with the grand vision. Here are the things that just don't work. First, launching many projects at once. Second, dividing the first win too slowly. Lastly, stretching the truth. Step 7 of Kotter and Cohen's method of change is don't let up. This step sounds simple enough. Don't let up. Easy, right? The reason why this step is important is that victory can make you weak. Short-term wins can create the attitude that we are winning, we are doing it, so we can dial back. These statements are a trigger that the sense of urgency will begin to sag. Keeping the urgency up during this stage is crucial because you're getting close to making the change stick and reaching the desired end state. It is important to review the milestones and goals and how they relate to the end state with the unit after each win. If needed, use what worked during step 1 to increase the urgency again and avoid becoming frustrated with the unit. Try to find ways to rejuvenate the unit and their sense of urgency between achieving milestones. Kotter and Cohen also recommend taking on more difficult portions or tasks during the change effort. Since the unit has achieved short-term victories and has gained some momentum, now would be the time to take on the harder task. This action could delay the sag and the sense of urgency in the change effort. Some change projects take a long time to complete. It can generate more work for the unit and create exhaustion. If able, reduce the workload and delegate tasks up or sideways to another organization. Okay, here are my 2 cents. This is where I diverge from Kotter and Cohen. Good luck on delegating tasks up the chain of command, or trying to make another unit do it. As a flight commander, I recommend focusing on the task you have complete authority on. You could postpone requirements or extend deadlines to reduce the workload. But recall what I recommended in step 3, to develop a timeline for the desired change to occur and compare it to other projects or events happening within the flight. Then determine the proper time to start implementing the change. This deconfliction will aid you from task saturating the flight. Kotter and Cohen have a few suggestions which will enable you to accomplish this task. First, continue with the change process until the vision is a reality. The end state is achieved. Second, looking constantly for ways to keep urgency up. Additionally, show the unit often how the short-term wins fit in where it relates to the desired end state. Here are the things that do not work. First, developing a long-term rigid plan. Second, convincing yourself that you are finished when you're not. Additionally, convincing yourself that you got the job done without confronting some of more embedded negative behaviors that prevents change from happening. Lastly, working so hard that you physically and emotionally collapse. This concludes step 7. Step 8 of Kotter's and Cohen's method of change is make change stick. All the hard work has paid off. You and your guiding team and the flight has succeeded in making change. But now here comes the hard part, making the change stick. Small scale changes like procedural or policy changes are easier to make stick because the results are visible, easier to relate to, and we're quick to implement. If these changes reduces the workload, then it is the new standard, and everyone likes it because you lessen the burden. Successful large-scale changes is fragile, harder to obtain, and often held together by the guiding team or the flight commander. Kotter and Cohen recommend using new employee orientation and promotion process to reinforce the new changes. New employee orientation can indoctrinate new members to the new norms that change has brought. When employees that embrace the new changes leave, they take it with them. New employees come in with the norms from a different culture. Kotter and Cohen have specific suggestions on how to use employee orientation to bring new employees up to speed, but it is civilian organizational specific. Okay, here are my 2 cents. I suggest using our newcomers indoctrination program and initial feedbacks to provide this function. As a flight commander, you should be already meeting all the newcomers. I recommend using this time to tell them about the new changes, what it does, why it is succeeding, and show them what the flight cares about. I recommend doing these meet and greets within the first week of the individual officially starting. Do the same with your initial feedbacks with your section leads. I believe this is critical to ensure the continuity of the new norms because new senior NCOs and or section leads can become instant boss barriers. Regarding the promotion process, Kotter and Cohen suggest promoting people who reflect and embrace the new norms, thus strengthening the new behaviors. By doing this, you increase the likelihood of making the changes stick. Okay, here are my 2 cents again. Yeah, this option is not afforded to us, but you can use the OSA staff positions in this fashion. This recommendation could test your leadership abilities because the politics involved with these appointments, politics being the key word. I know the norm with this procedure, which is not in the AFI. The section lead makes their selection, and the flight commander signs the appointment letter. Hey, sometimes that works, but to be honest, I don't think that is in concert with the AFI. Appointing staff position is probably a good topic for another 13-mic debrief segment. But for now, I suggest when a staff position becomes vacant, consider the open for changes variable, especially when you're about to embark on the journey of making changes. You don't want to accidentally create boss and system barriers to the change process. Kotter and Cohen suggest not making system-wide cultural changes in the unit at first. Instead, start with small changes. These small, successful changes will build trust that would generate a new way of operating, new norms and behaviors. Before you know it, you have created a culture that can trust itself to change when it needs to. Here are my 2 cents yet again. I agree with Kotter and Cohen's recommendation on how to change the culture in an organization. I would add, if you're going to target the culture for change, first you need to observe it. See how it flows. Understand its traditions, norms, and behaviors. Because maybe you don't need a system-wide cultural change, just small tweaks here and there. But sometimes you might need a system-wide cultural change immediately because the culture in the flight is just wrong. It goes against our core values and the resulting product violates the UCMJ. If you face this situation, I recommend using this process but out of order. You will meet a lot of resistance and you will need allies. Therefore, start with creating a guiding team. Then work on getting the vision right. Then move on to increase urgency. You would need to work with your team in finding a compelling object that the flight can see, touch, and feel. I believe this tenet is important in producing the emotional desire to fix the problems, to increase the urgency. I've discovered videos can provide that dramatic evidence needed to demonstrate that change is required. Lastly, I believe making change stick starts with step 1, increase urgency. The more people you have emotionally committed to the change effort, more likely the change will stick. Okay, back to Kotter and Cohen. They have a few suggestions which enable you to accomplish this task. First, not stopping at step 7. It isn't over until the change has roots. Using new employee orientation to compellingly show the newcomers what the organization really cares about. Using the promotion process to place people who act accordingly to the new norms into influential and visible positions. Telling vivid stories over and over about the new organization, what it does, and why it succeeds. Making absolutely sure you have the continuity of behavior and results that help a new culture grow. Here are a couple of things that don't work. Relying on a boss or the guiding team or anything but culture to hold a big change in place. Trying to change a culture as the first step in the transformation process. In conclusion, first I want to thank you for completing this journey on summarizing Kotter and Cohen's method. I'm not going to do a traditional conclusion, but I will repeat the theme of Kotter and Cohen's method of change and add one bit. The theme of this method is what Kotter describes as the flow of see, feel, and change. For people to accept or make a change, they must see, feel, then change. Analysis can shift the way people think. It is not enough to get them to change behavior. People need to be shown a truth to influence their feelings to make a change and to make adjustments stick. My addition is time. Kotter and Cohen did not focus on the time variable where it comes to this process. Time is an important resource to our community because of the assignment and deployment cycles. I recommend factoring the time variable into your plan, strategy, and vision. When people are coming and going will affect the change effort. I purposely did not include specifics on my own experiences, even though I boasted that I had used this process several times. I wanted these videos to focus on the process, not on my war stories. If there is a demand to hear these stories, then I will produce them. If not, then you can hit me up at the next 13-Mic conference. To close out, there are many ways to administer change. I encourage the audience to find alternative ways and to develop a process that best suits them. This concludes this video series on change and this 13-Mic debrief segment. That is all. ZX.